In this assignment, I'm going to compare my football technique with a professional's technique. I am using the right lateral view for my kicking in each 4 stages. The 4 stages of the kicking approach is backswing, ball contact, and follow through. This is a picture of myself compared to a professional. The view I am using is the right lateral view. The approach to the ball is key when you are trying to have a good connection with the ball and create a good technique. Now comparing my style with the pro style, the only difference we can see between the two photos within the technique is the left arm as I run up, my left arm is a little bent in a little bit of my right arm straight, giving me a good balance. However, the pro's arms are both straight, giving him maximum balance when striking the ball. When you are leading up to kick the ball, you should stand at a 45-degree angle. This gives you enough room on the ball to get a good connection and move your body depending on how you want to strike it. It allows great lower limb velocity and ball speed. This is helpful when you are trying to drive a ball to a player's feet. The movement used in this motion is called motion. The backswing. Moving on to the backswing. The backswing is one of the most important parts of the phase because this is where you need to get your balance, angles and technique right. Otherwise the strike and the follow through will be unbalanced and the strike may go wide. When you are in the backswing and you want to be creating around a 29-degree angle, this gives you a good connection with the ball and likely to be a good strike. The backswing phase starts when the kicking leg leaves the ground and standing leg moves towards the ball and lands next to it. You want your standing leg to be as close to the ball as it can. This makes it to keep a good connection because the kicking leg won't have to reach the ball and you make your whole body off balance. The backswing is complete when the kicking leg reaches maximum extension and the standing leg makes contact with the ground. When you are performing the backswing, you are extending and abduction of the femoral joint, flexion of tibiofemoral joint, and the plantar flexion and the talcrural joint. All of this happens to allow you to strike the ball. The plans and axes used in this phase is transverse axis and transverse plane. The kicking leg, which is the right leg for me, flexes and internally rotates. This is when your knee bends back with your foot facing down to the floor, ready to come up and strike the ball. Concentric contraction from long head of biceps femoral. Moving onto the ankle. The gastrocnemius works concentrically to plantar flex the ankle. So when you go to strike the ball, you are using the correct part of the football because you have moved the muscle to change the shape of the foot to strike the ball clean. The hamstrings are responsible for hip extension and the knee flexion. 2 people who wrote about the hamstrings and how they are key for the backswing extensions are Hoy and Sorensen. Hoy said because of hip and knee position during the backswing, the hamstrings exert more force, meaning there is more rotation in the knee because the hamstring supports it. Then Sorensen added that eccentric contraction of the hip flexors and extension during the backswing is an important role controlling the leg as it involves posturally along the sagittal plane. Ball contact. The ball contact is one of the most important parts of these phases, depending on the contact. Depends how well the ball is hit and where the ball will end up. There is an argument about the perfect technique, saying how you should run up and how you should be hitting the ball. However, other people say if the ball gets to A and B, it's a good technique. However, if you have a bad technique, if you hit the ball with a bad connection 10 times, it may only go to A and B twice. The main joint in the movement on the ball contact is the plantar flexion of the ankle, achieved when concentric contraction of the tibialis anterior when the forward motion of the kicking leg begins. The standing leg lexicon should be approximately 26 degrees, increasing to 42 degrees. Supports the acceleration of the body and allows continued velocity of the kicking leg to continue for the follow through. The foot placement should be next to the ball for optimal power, accuracy and connection. If your foot is placed too close to the ball, there will be a limited flexion of the knee, affecting the angular velocity of the ball. The axis and the planes used in this movement is called transverse axis and transverse plane. Ball contact lasts approximately 6 to 16 milliseconds, according to research from football specialists. Right, the follow through. Follow through is the final part of the phase when striking a ball. Many people won't see the follow through as a key point when striking the ball. However, the way you finish your technique is probably one of the biggest parts. If you aren't balanced, your technique is wrong, as you follow through the ball could end up going wide of your target or not reaching the target. The follow through is the deceleration of the kicking leg once you have swung through the ball. It maximizes foot contact with the ball and creates transfer of kinetic energy. Eccentric contraction from hip extenders and abductors in the knee flexors. This helps generate the power when you kick the ball and allows the free movement of the follow through. Eccentric contraction protects from injury by dissipating kinetic and elastic forces generated by the kicking leg. However, because this is an abrupt slowing of the athletes is at risk of hamstring strains or injuries of surrounding muscles. The follow-through involves hyperextension of the knee to the full flexion of the quadriceps. After analysing my technique to the pros technique in depth, I and my coach have seen that there is not a lot of difference in the way our body is shaped throughout the whole process. The only time we can see a real difference between both of us is the follow through. His kicking leg hands are more in the air, which means the ball's going to hang in the air longer. While when mine has planted into the floor straight away, showing I have hit the ball with my laces and done a driven pass. However, our approach is still very similar with the run-up distance. How we use our arms and also where we plant the foot next to the ball. My foot and the pros is as close as it can get without touching the ball. This increases your balance and gives you a better strike of the ball. My overview of my performance. From my study, I have found that my technique and style of striking a football isn't that bad or too far away from the perfect technique. It was good to look into my technique and break it down into each of the phases to look at and see where I can improve. My coach and I have both decided for me to improve my passing range to start doing faded passes into the centre midfielders from other ranges. From my study, I have also learnt about new terms like plane axes. This has helped me understand my body better and now the biomechanics work and know how the biomechanics works. When striking a ball, it's made me look more into depth of football and how how everyone's body and style is different and how that affects the outcome of striking a football. To improve my performance, it is what I said above. I need to start bringing different styles of passes into my game so I stand out more and have my passing and improve my passing ranges. The conclusion. In this conclusion, I am going to be talking about different parts of the whole assignment and analysing it. Many biomechanical aspects, they are both positive and negative effects on the action of striking a ball. I have had to consider that I am striking a ball with a drive motion, and the pro has gone for a more lobbed pass. So when we were analysing each technique, it's harder because his body shape near the end at the phase is different to mine, so it makes it harder to say whose technique or shape is better, because we are both striking the ball differently. I have also had to consider planes and axes, sagittal movements and other key aspects of the body and how it all links together to create the kick and the style I have used. I chose to break down the analysis because each of the phases are so important. We have to break it down to talk about each one. We have to explore the impact it has on the outcome and success of kicking. It makes it easier to look at each point and the movement of the body and how the body works together. When we break it down, we can look at mine and the pros and see where the body is in the phase compared to the pros. This makes it easier to look at the change when we're back on the training ground because we have stopped it and compared it to someone else's and see where we are going wrong. It also helps talk about the movement that we've been using. When we break it down, each stage of the phase is the speed. In the run up, if I looked at the balance, the kicking leg back, and the correct angle at it depending on the power we put in, depends how far the ball travels. Biomechanics alone does not control the whole success of an action. Factors such as weather, perceived pressure, and equipment may impact the success of an action. This means the weather is really windy and the ball could still end up where you want to, even if it's a bad strike, because the conditions can't help it. The best and the most fair way that we could compare a pros is out of 5 balls in a line, same condition, see whose technique works the best. That is the only way we can fairly compare both sides. Biomechanics, like we said, is only a small margin when striking the ball. However, you still need to look at the basics before you can think about any other factors and why it could go wrong. Thank you, that was my biomechanics technical, Jordan Cornford.